All right, everybody, welcome to the after evening or after hours social. I keep trying to stay away from time specific namings because we've got people from a very global audience, but we are all here gathered together. We have Tito Sierra. I'm super excited because I have always wanted to learn how to bartend. And so I'll let you kind of take away the show. I will be watching for questions in the after hours, after event social channel on Slack. And folks will be joining in the room live as well who want to kind of participate and ask questions. There are also people who are watching and gather. So the audience is spread out across multiple mediums. And so I'll just let you go ahead and take it away.
Great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to participate in this session. This is a topic of great personal interest to me. My day job is not a bartender. So I am a product manager at a software company. I work for Ona Technologies. I'm a principal product manager at Ona, and I've been doing product management for quite a while. Um, but this session represents what I do when I'm not at work and what I enjoy doing as a hobby, which is bartending. So, full disclaimer, I've never tended bar in a public bar. I've not been paid to do that, so I'm not a professional. But I tend to take my hobbies quite seriously, and it's something that I've really gotten into I would say, in the last 5 years. And my friends and family have benefited greatly from this hobby, and it's something that I've really invested a lot of time and energy into, and money as well. Um, so, really, what I want to do in this session is I want to give regular folks a few tips and ideas around how to set up a bar at home, how to do basic cocktails at home. So, this is really home bartending basics. I have a lot of material to cover. Um, I did post in the program session for this, or in the website for this session, I posted a link to a PDF. So it will look like this. So it's a guide that I've put together around bartending. So in case I missed some crucial details that you guys need for your bartending, you could look at that guide and refer to it. So initially, I'm going to start by talking about why why invest in bartending, home bartending as a hobby? Why develop your skills and craft in this area? And why did I do that? One is that, for me, being able to mix drinks for family and friends is a really great social experience. And so, one of the big benefits of bartending is to be able to have great experiences with those that you care about. And being able to prepare a nice cocktail really creates a great social atmosphere for you and your friends. Another benefit that I found as I've gotten into it, and I've gone down the path of experimenting with different cocktails and different ingredients, is that I've become more of a connoisseur of mixed drinks. And so now going to a restaurant or going to a bar is interesting for me because I start paying attention to the ingredients and I start getting ideas about things I might want to try. And so I've gotten more appreciation for mixed drinks as a result. One other thing that I would say about this is, um, generally speaking, enjoying a fine cocktail at home generally is going to be better than what you get at a bar and at a fraction of the price as well. So entertaining and really enjoying fine cocktails, if you develop the skills and you buy some of the ingredients, and you can make better tasting cocktails, and again at a fraction of the cost of going out to a bar. And so, particularly during this time of quarantine, it's been a really nice benefit to have these skills so that I can enjoy cocktails without necessarily have to go through, spend too much or not gain access to bars that are closed because of the quarantine. So let's let's talk a little bit about tools and glassware. So I'm going to start kind of building you up, and eventually, in about 20 minutes, I'll actually start mixing some cocktails so you can see that process. But let me give you that foundation first. So there's a few basics that you need to have in terms of tools in order to really get into the home bartending craft. And it's not necessarily usually expensive, but there are a few basic tools that are almost essential for a home bar. And I'm beginning, and apologies for those who already have these tools and you already know a lot of the basics, but I'm assuming an audience that really hasn't really gone down this path. So first, in no particular order, a cocktail shaker. So this right here is what we would call a Boston shaker. And a Boston shaker is basically a two-part shaker where you have a smaller one that fits into a bigger one. You'll see me actually use it in a little bit, but a shaker basically is what you would use when your cocktails have citrus in it. So citrus wants to be aerated. So anytime you're putting citrus in a cocktail, and many cocktails include citrus, usually lemons and limes, you're going to want to shake those. On the other hand, if you are doing cocktails that are just pure spirits, so a spirit-forward cocktail, which is includes no citrus, it's really a mix of a few different liquors, then you would actually use a mixing glass. So a mixing glass would be one where you put the ice in it, and you'd have a bar spoon to be able to mix it and chill the drink, and then pour that. You probably heard you're hearing right now. You might be hearing my rooster. I actually have chickens and one rooster, so apologies for that. He's part of the entertainment. Yes, it is. That is a rooster. That's my rooster Paco. All right. Next up. Measurement. So I think it's important when you're starting out in the home bartending that you actually measure your ingredients. So when you're looking at recipes for a cocktail, it's important to measure it. This sort of like do it by hand thing generally doesn't necessarily lead to consistently high quality cocktails. So you want to measure it. So this is what's called a jigger. It's pretty standard bartending ware, which is typically measured in ounces. And this, you pour your liquor in it. It's a measurement tool. I have a pro tip. So I actually use one of these, which is a angled measuring cup. And this is a OXO brand. And I find that this is actually much easier to use than the jigger. Typically in a bar, you'll see they'll use the jigger. The other thing, going back to the cocktail shaker, is you typically need to strain your ingredients. So typically you're putting ice in, you're putting your liquor, shaking it, and then this is what's called a Hawthorne strainer. And it's just a simple apparatus to put on top of your shaker to be able to pour your drink. So that's that. And sometimes in some cocktail recipes, it'll call for double straining. So double straining just means you actually strain with the Hawthorne, and then you have a cone strainer. So this is a cone strainer. And that would be for a cocktail that has ingredients, like if you mashed some fruit, or if you did like a mojito and you wanted it clean, so you don't have big pieces of leaves or things like that, then you could double strain it into the cup. So that's the strainer. The juice press. This is a nice one. There are other ones you can get. This is for squeezing citrus. So I always highly recommend always squeezing your citrus. So anything that calls for lime juice and lemon juice, don't use concentrate, don't use sour mixes, don't use any of that stuff. It's much easier to buy a bag of lemons and limes and squeeze it yourself. So citrus press is a pretty basic tool. That's an overview of tools. Next topic I want to talk about is ice. So typically, the majority of cocktails are chilled, and ice is super important. So if you're going to have a social event where you're going to be making cocktails for a lot of people, you want to make sure you have plenty of ice because you will go through a lot of it. So one of the things that I do is sometimes I'll buy a 2-pound bag of ice and I'll have that ready in the freezer. So that way I don't have to worry about it. So this here is, I've got just some regular refrigerator ice. But one of the things that if you want to up your game in terms of cocktails is a lot of cocktails call for large ice cubes. And the purpose of large ice cubes, in addition to making for a nicer looking cocktail, they'll chill the drink without watering it down too quickly. So the more surface area on the ice, the more dilution you're going to get, and so that drink is going to get watered down more. So one of the things that I've invested in, hard to see with my black background here, but is a large cube ice tray. And these are super handy. You just put them in the fridge and they're not that expensive. So this is, I consider it another essential. There are also fancy ones like this one here. This one's a spherical. So this makes for a very nice cocktail with a spherical ice. And again, these are not expensive, but they definitely up your game in terms of bartending. So ice is super important. Next topic here is glassware. So, in some ways, which glass you choose isn't going to change the flavor of the cocktail, but it changes the experience of the cocktail. And it definitely lends, it definitely will make you feel like the drink is properly served and mixed. And so certain types of cocktails lend themselves to certain types of glassware. So I thought I'd walk through those. So this one's probably maybe the most famous one when you think of cocktails, and that's a martini glass. So that's the cone-shaped glass. And in general, this glassware is used for cocktails that are chilled but don't have ice in them. So if I'm making a martini, I'm going to be chilling that vodka or that gin, and then I'm going to be pouring it into here. And there's no ice in it. So generally speaking, you don't put ice in a martini glass. Or if you have a cocktail that's doesn't have ice in it when it's served, then a martini glass is one of the most common glasses you use for that. In the same category, there is, this is called a coupe glass. And this one is, I would call it a more elegant version of a martini glass. Same concept, a chilled mixed cocktail, except without ice. A coupe is a very elegant alternative to the martini glass. Next up here, this is referred to as a highball glass. And a highball glass is a tall, thin glass. And you typically use this for cocktails that are served with ice and with carbonation. So if you're going to have a mixed drink that has soda water in it, club soda, you'll fill this with ice and you'll serve it in here. So a rum and Coke would go in here. A whiskey, well, actually, I would say, yeah, rum and Coke or a mojito could go in here as well. So that's a highball, or a Collins, vodka Collins or gin Collins would go in this glass here. If you were serving something, a cocktail that has champagne in it or some sparkling wine, it's nice to serve it in a champagne glass. So there are a few cocktails where you put a little bit of sparkling wine of some type, and this would be an appropriate glass for that. Then there's the margarita glass. This one's a huge one. This is a traditional margarita glass. I actually don't use this glass very often. This I would use if I was making frozen margaritas in the blender, and then I would put it in here. And this one happens to be a plastic one, which is nice for outdoor. But I'm actually going to be making a margarita just in a few minutes, and I'm actually going to be using a rocks glass for it because I just like presenting it in that form. So there are no hard rules around glassware, but there are certain patterns in terms of which one is appropriate. And it's part of the presentation. You have a drink that's mixed properly, tastes great, and is in the right glass that lends itself to a great experience. So that's glassware. Next, I'll talk about sweeteners. So not all cocktails have sweetener in it, but most cocktails do. And with sweeteners, what you really want to think about is what type of sweetener you're going to use and how you're going to deliver it. So generally speaking, most cocktails you don't put actual granulated sugar in it because it it's not, it won't, with cold liquids, it's not going to dissolve. So typically what you would use is you would use a simple syrup. So simple syrup, and I'll show you a simple syrup that I made here. So this is simple syrup. Simple syrup is the base sweetener for almost all cocktails. And I'll talk about some alternatives in a second, but for the most part, simple syrup is what you're going to be using. And simple syrup is very simple to make. So all it is you take on a saucepan, on the stove, you take 1 part sugar, granulated sugar, 1 part water. And you heat it up until it melts. And you put it in a container, and that's simple syrup. That's it. And you can make rich simple syrup. Rich simple syrup is the same thing, except you do a 2-to-1 ratio on the sugar. So some cocktails lend themselves to wanting to have more of a syrupy thickness to it. And so you might use rich simple syrup for that. So this happens to be rich simple syrup. So that's why you can sort of see. But you're not limited to granulated sugar. You can also make syrups out of honey. And honey syrup is one that I've been using a lot lately. And so here's honey syrup. You can see the nice color to it. And it has a little bit of more of a honey flavor, obviously. And so honey syrup is 2 parts honey to 1 part water. And again, you make it yourself. You don't have to buy it in the store. It's much cheaper. You make it at home and you store it, and then you're good to go. So that's sweeteners.
Tito, there was a quick question from the
Yeah.
group on the simple syrups.
Sure.
The volume, is it by volume, the 1 part to 1 part, or is it by weight?
Yeah, by volume. So I would just take a cup, a solid measure of 1 cup of sugar, and then 1 cup of water. And because you could do a regular syrup or a rich syrup, it doesn't have to be precise. You know, it's 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. If it's 1.5, that's fine as well. But yeah, so I would just do like a cup measure like this. You scoop that in, put it in, and yeah, so it's basically by volume. All right, so citrus. So as you get into bartending, you'll notice that there's certain common ingredients with cocktails, and the base of the vast majority of cocktails are a spirit, so that's a liquor, a sour, so that's going to be typically lemon juice or lime juice, and then a sweetener, which is going to be like a simple syrup or a honey syrup. And you can cover a large volume of cocktails with that simple recipe. So if you change the liquor, so if you do rum instead of gin or vodka, you change the citrus that you use and you add some sweetener to it, then you've got a different cocktail. So you'll start noticing, I know this is Python developers, so you guys are good at pattern matching and understanding patterns. There is a pretty standard pattern for cocktails, and it's basically 2 ounces of liquor, a 1/2 ounce of sour, and 3/4 ounce of sweetener. That's pretty much it. So if you want to know bartending, if you know that, you can mix all kinds of cocktails. And then what you're doing is you're varying the cocktails based on the flavor profile. The 4th aspect of cocktails is a distinct flavor. So that base of 3, then you could add a specific flavor. So that could be a peach, or that could be ginger, or that could be whatever, pineapple, coconut. Those that's what gives the cocktail a little bit of a distinctive flavor profile. But citrus, sugar, and liquor, that's pretty much the core foundation of cocktails. Let's see. I think that's all that I want to talk about in terms of tools and glassware. Next way is the preparation. So you'll see in cocktail recipes that they will say something like mix the ingredients in a shaker, mix the ingredients in a glass, build it in the glass, or they'll say serve it neat. So this terminology is covered in the guide, but I'll just show you what that means because it's quite simple. So first one, serving. If you're serving a drink neat, this is the simplest one. Everybody can do that. So this is a very nice bourbon. So for you bourbon heads out there, this is something we would appreciate. So serving a cocktail neat just means this. That's it. That's neat. Very simple. Yeah, so I see somebody out there wants to grab it. This is a very nice bourbon. I'll hold off. I'll save that one for later. So next one is shaken. So I'm going to actually, at this point, do a recipe for a cocktail that's in the guide. And so I don't know, there might be some people out there who have actually prepared to mix their own drinks during the session, which would be great. Oh, I see somebody's already drinking something neat. That's great. Please enjoy yourselves. So I'm going to start with my first recipe, and it's going to be a shaken, so that way you can see what shaken looks like. So here, I'm going to make a classic margarita. So I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. A margarita should not be made with sour mix or powders or anything like that. Making a good margarita is extremely simple, and you should always use fresh ingredients. So these are the ingredients that I'm going to use for this cocktail. So I'm going to use fresh lime juice. I'm going to use, this is a silver tequila. This is 1800. It's a brand that I like. Then I'm going to use Cointreau, which is an orange liqueur. And instead of simple syrup or honey syrup, I'm going to use agave syrup. So that's a third sweetener that you could use. And just a note about agave, that it is sweeter than simple syrup. It's as sweet as rich syrup. So in general, when you're substituting agave for, if it says a half an ounce, if it says 3/4 ounce of simple syrup, you probably want to use just a half an ounce of this stuff because it's much sweeter by volume. So that's agave. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare this. So one thing is tequila. While we're on the topic of tequila, there's silver is the most common tequila used. And this one has that distinctive tequila flavor, which some people call herbal, or they call it, it's earthy. It just has a distinct flavor to it. I'm actually a big fan of this one here, which is reposado. So that's aged tequila. So tequila actually comes in 3 levels. So there's silver, there's reposado, which has been aged for a short period of time. And then there's añejo, which has been aged for a long period of time. And what's interesting is that, so the aging in barrels gives it the color, but it also mellows out the flavor. So if you're somebody that maybe had a bad experience drinking really bad tequila at some point, and if you smell it, it makes you feel nauseous, because I know somebody that's in that, not me, but somebody else. Try reposado, and you might actually find that you'll enjoy it because it doesn't have that strong tequila flavor. So anyway, I just thought I'd make a call out for that. When I make this cocktail for myself, I use reposado because I actually like the vanilla and barrel flavoring. But I'm going to make it traditional. So, all right, so let's do it. So get my shaker.
Tito, what is the name of your rooster?
Paco.
Paco, there we go.
He's the star.
Erica was asking.
He's the star of the show. Yeah, he's the star of the show. Okay, so let's start. So generally, the ordering doesn't matter because you're going to end up shaking it, but I usually start with the liquor. So I'm going to do, let's see, for this one, I think I say 2 ounces. You could do 2 ounces or 1.5 ounces of your base liquor. So almost all cocktails are going to be 1.5 or 2 ounces of liquor. That's pretty standard. So I'm going to pour that in there. And then do 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur. And I'm using Cointreau. The other popular brand is Grand Marnier. I actually prefer one called Salerno, but they're all good. This is traditional, so that's 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur. So I've got my alcohol content in there. Now I need my sour. So I generally don't measure it out because you just sort of look at the size of your lime, but you can. So you could squeeze it and measure it. So I'm going to put in 1 ounce of lime juice, which is in this case going to be a full lime. Actually, these are really small limes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut another one. Let me get my knife. If you have big limes, then you're obviously using less, but I'm going to go ahead and squeeze 3 half limes. There we go. We got 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. And then my recipe calls for 3/4 ounce of simple syrup, which is the standard amount of sweetener for a cocktail. I'm using this agave. And the reason why I'm using agave is because it's made from the agave plant, which is where tequila is made from. So having agave as your sweetener is very appropriate. And so it makes a little bit of a difference. You can taste a little bit of a difference. So I'm actually going to do 1/2 ounce of agave. If you have simple syrup, you would want to do a full 3/4 ounce. So there is my ingredients. So Boston shaker, you pretty much create a seal by putting the top on like that, and then you just shake. Okay, so let's talk about shaking. So shaking to get a cocktail fully chilled is going to be about 12 to 15 seconds. All right, I'm going to serve this one in a coupe. And you have flexibility, as I said, in terms of glassware. I'm not going to serve this one on ice. I'm going to serve it in the more elegant way. I've got my Hawthorne strainer. See how it perfectly fills the cup there. And if you want to get fancy, you could put a little bit, you could put a lime wheel. So this is what's called a garnish. Ta-da. So there you have your first cocktail. This is a margarita. So served, in this variant, served in a coupe glass. I'm going to take a sip. Very good. So the fresh lime juice has this very fresh tartness to it. The agave is sweet. The tequila is mellowed out because of those ingredients. It's quite delicious. This tops. This is, I would say, the best way to drink a margarita I would not do it in the big glass with lots of ice in it. It's a little, for me, this is much tastier. And so when you serve in a coupe, these are sipping drinks. They're not ones that you like pour down, because these actually have, this one has 2.5 ounces of liquor. So actually this is something you would sip and enjoy. So that's my first cocktail, which is a margarita. I'm gonna get set up for my next cocktail. Any questions from the audience while I get set up?
There was lots of people who would love to have that margarita sitting right in front of them. It looks delicious.
It's good. It was delicious. Okay. I'm just gonna clean up for my next cocktail. Get these out of the way. All right, so for this next cocktail, I'm going to make a whiskey sour.
Actually, Tito, there's one more question before you get started. If you're going to have a lot of people over, would you pre-make some cocktails? Like, could you pre-make a margarita in quantity?
Yeah, the issue there has to do with chilling it and then dilution. So what I would probably do is I would probably squeeze your lime juice in advance. So I would squeeze it and then keep it in a container like this so that you can have fresh lime juice, and that way you're pouring it. But you know, if you're making cocktails for like 6 people, then shaking is only about 20 seconds. So you can probably make a cocktail in 30 seconds. So the time-consuming part is cutting the limes and squeezing it. And so, yeah, if you're talking about a really big group, then you're probably not making hand cocktails at that point. You might think about serving beer and wine if you have more than like 10 people. So it's expensive. Okay. It's not cheap. It's much cheaper than going to, a bar or restaurant. All right, I'm going to get on to the next one. And so the next one I'm going to make is a whiskey sour. So this is using whiskey. And this one is also a shaken cocktail. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out my cocktail. Okay, so this one's interesting. And in my recipe, in the guide, I actually include an egg white. So this is going to be fun. So here's my egg. And this is actually from my backyard chicken. So it's actually a fresh organic egg. So I'm just going to get my egg white, get it ready. So whiskey sour is part of the category of drinks called sours, except using whiskey. Whereas margarita pairs well with limes because of its region. Whiskey, for whatever reason, whiskey cocktails, when they have a citrus, they typically include lemons. So this one's a lemon sour drink. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing my ingredients. We got some fresh ice. And this one, I'm just going to check the recipe here. So this one uses 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. So first, let me start with my liquor. So for the whiskey, I'm going to use a blended Scotch whiskey. So I'm going to use Buchanan's. You can substitute a bourbon, like an American bourbon, for this as well. They're slightly different flavors, but they're in the same ballpark. So I'm going to use this Buchanan's Deluxe. I'm going to go ahead. Again, same pattern. You guys are good at patterns. 2 ounces of liquor. And then 3/4 ounce of lemon. Just squeeze it right into the cocktail. All right, and then my sweetener. So I'm just going to use rich simple syrup in this case. You can use regular simple syrup. And I think I say here in my recipe, half an ounce of simple syrup. All right, so let's talk about sweeteners. So one thing that I've found in doing home bartending is that there are people that like sweet drinks and people that like their drinks less sweet. And so part of being a good bartender is knowing the people that you're making drinks for. And so if you're going to have friends and family that you're going to make drinks for over a long period of time, start learning their tastes. And in fact, if you make a cocktail, one of the things that I like to do is I actually ask them, would you like that sweeter or not? And sometimes people won't say it, but some people do like a sweeter drink. And so when you're serving the same cocktail to somebody else, you know they like sweeter drinks, make them a sweeter drink. You know, obviously the whole point is to provide people with enjoyment. So I'm going to do half an ounce of simple syrup. And this is the version of the cocktail without egg. So I'm going to have a comparison. Can you get me one of these, please? I have an assistant helping me. Okay. So normally you serve it, you pour it over the ice, but that's fine. And so this whiskey sour, I'm going to put in as a garnish, I'm going to put in a maraschino cherry. Now there's maraschino cherries, the bright red ones that you can get in the grocery store. Those are fine. If you want to get fancy, you get this. These are really, 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 really good. They're very special. They're not cheap, but they're very tasty. I'm going to go ahead and put a maraschino cherry in there. So that's a whiskey sour without egg. So it's a perfectly good drink. Delicious. But I'm going to prepare it for you. I guess it would be the old school way with egg white. So you can visually see the difference. And get some more fresh ice. And squeeze this lemon. Oh yeah, I need to dry shake this. Yes, yes, yes. My assistant just reminded me of the proper way of doing this. Okay. So this is an important lesson. So if you're making a cocktail with egg white, you actually want to dry shake it first. So a dry shake just means you first shake without ice. So I've got my lemon juice. I'm going to maybe I'll make this one with bourbon. My assistant can go get me that bourbon that's over there. Thank you. So I'll make whiskey sour two ways. So this one's going to be a bourbon whiskey sour with egg white. So I'm going to use this fine bourbon here. Do 2 ounces. Okay. And then I'm going to do, I'll use a whole egg white just for the visual. Some recipes call for half an ounce of egg white, which is going to be like half an egg white, but I'll just go ahead and use the whole. And then the sweetener, I've got my simple syrup. Half an ounce of simple syrup. So I'm going to dry shake first. Now, when you dry shake, you only need to go about 6 or 7 seconds. Now, what this is doing is this is emulsifying the egg white. So this is to emulsify the egg white. Now, I'm going to add some ice to actually chill the drink. And for this one, I'm going to get real fancy, and I'm going to use my big spherical ice. This is a really nice cocktail. Hope you guys appreciate it. All right. Now you'll see a difference between the two cocktails as soon as I pour it. So let's get this sorted out. Okay, and then for this one, I'm going to actually put Angostura bitters. We haven't talked about bitters yet. I'll talk about that in a second, but I'm going to put a few dashes of Angostura bitters on top. So see the difference between these two. You taste the difference more than you even see the difference. But you'll see that in this cocktail, it's thicker. It's actually opaque. You can't see through it. And the texture is much nicer, in my opinion. Obviously, if you're vegan, you're not going to want this. This is a perfectly fine cocktail. If you are okay with having egg white in your cocktail, this is super tasty. And the difference between a maraschino cherry and Angostura bitters is just a taste flavor preference. The maraschino cherry, I would say the maraschino cherry works better if you're mixing it with bourbon because they're both sweet. And makes for a sweeter cocktail. So that would be one that I would serve in the holidays. But other times of year, if you have, if whoever you're serving it to likes a more traditional cocktail, less sweet, then doing a blended whiskey or doing a whiskey and then doing the Angostura bitters is a little bit more, is a drier cocktail. It's going to be less sweet. So both delicious, but just different, slight variations on the same thing.
Quick question from the audience. Does the freshness of the egg whites matter? Obviously, we don't have chickens in our backyard. We'd love to have that, but could you use even like carton egg whites?
Yes, absolutely. I just happen to have chickens, so I'm going to use my chicken's eggs, but I don't think most people will be able to. I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference. So yeah, use regular eggs. Regular eggs are perfectly fine.
And then can you mix and match whether you do cherry or bitters in either one of those versions of the cocktail?
Usually, at least from what I've seen, usually it's one or the other. But I would say if you can't get a hold of, really good maraschino cherries, I would probably just use bitters. I prefer that over the really bright red maraschino cherries you get in the grocery store, but that's just me being picky.
And we want to know how many chickens you have.
I have 5 chickens and 1 rooster, and I get about 4 eggs a day.
Awesome.
So I've got lots of eggs. Yeah, lots of eggs. All right, so I'm just gonna clean up here. Ready for the next one. Okay, for this next one, I'm going to use the recipe or a modification of the recipe that I have in the guide for a custom cocktail that I made, which I call a triple peach daiquiri. So this one, this is an example of once you've got the pattern down in terms of 2 ounces of liquor, 3/4 ounce of sweetener, and then a citrus, then you can do all kinds of variations on that theme. So this is one that I created for a friend who likes peaches. And let me just show you how it works. So for this one, I'm going to use peach flavored rum. So this is an inexpensive brand. Most rums are inexpensive. Flavored vodka or rum is inexpensive. This is peach rum. You could substitute peach vodka as well. In taste tests with friends, people seem to like the rum better for what that's worth. So I'm going to use peach rum for this recipe. And I got to clean out the shaker. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to do 2 ounces of peach rum. And then I'm going to use a half an ounce of peach schnapps. This is pretty basic bar stuff, not at all expensive, but it gives it a very good, strong peach flavor. And then in my recipe, I called for some kind of peach syrup. So you could have something like this. You see these sort of things you see in coffee shops that you can order online, which are like flavored syrups. But I'm going to switch things up, and I'm going to use peach nectar instead. So this is a brand that I like, Humex, and I'm going to use peach nectar. And the reason why I like peach nectar better is because it's a little thicker, but it has a better mouthfeel. And so for this one, I'm going to do an ounce of peach nectar. And then lime juice. So again, you guys know the routine. Just take a lime. This one is not intended to be a super sour drink because my friend likes sweet, peachy drinks. So I'm just going to use half a lime on that one. That's a good rule of thumb. If you want something that's more sour, use a whole lime. If you want something that's less sweet, you use half a lime. And I don't recommend no lime. So I have found, and I've tested this with my friends, where I've made a cocktail and then not put a lime in it. And what they'll say is that relative to other cocktails that I've made, it feels a little flat. So the fresh sour adds a little dimension to it. So I actually strongly recommend using lime juice, even in a cocktail that's intended to be sweet. And go ahead. Okay. And this one, I will serve it in a martini glass. Oh, tip. So if you want to do this the proper way, what you actually do is you chill your glass first. So normally before I start putting in the ingredients, normally I would chill the glass first, and put ice water and some ice. And then just before I'm about to serve it, you just dump it. Then you have a little bit of a chilled glass. This one, in terms of garnish, you could do a number of things. You could take a little bit of lime, just do a lime twist. usually your garnish, you'd want something that speaks to the ingredient in the cocktail. So this happens to be a peach cocktail. I don't know that I'd put a slice of peach on there. Maybe if I had fresh peaches, I might put a slice of peach on there. But that's basically a peach daiquiri. Okay. Actually, let me taste it. That's very peachy. So it's triple peach. So we got peach nectar, peach schnapps, peach rum. Very, very peachy. All right. I'm going to make the next cocktail. You guys still hear me?
We hear you great.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, sorry. All right, so for my next cocktail, let me say something about non-alcoholic cocktails. So not all cocktails, but many cocktails can be made non-alcoholic. So if you have friends in your family that want to participate in the social experience, but they're not alcohol drinkers, they could play along too. You would basically substitute the alcohol content of the cocktail with some mixers, non-alcoholic mixer. So if I were to do a non-alcoholic version of that same cocktail, just do that real quick. I would take peach rum. Oh, no, not peach rum, sorry. It's non-alcoholic. Hold on. Okay, so what I would do is I would do my lime. That's the point, it's non-alcoholic. So I would do my lime juice, fresh lime juice. I would put in my simple syrup. I'd put a little more of the peach nectar to take up the volume that would have been taken up by the rum. I'd put like 2 ounces. And then for this non-alcoholic drink, I would actually put that in a highball glass. You can see highball glass there. And shake that. Okay. So this is a nice fresh mixed drink. So it has simple syrup and it has peach flavoring and lime. So it tastes like a cocktail, but without the alcohol content. And this one I'm going to serve in a highball. And then to actually add another element so that the folks that are having the non-alcoholic cocktails get something special, I'm actually going to put in some ginger beer. So this is a little extra that they get. So peach and ginger is a nice combination. I'm going to top that off with ginger beer. And if you do it that way, you can mix it, or if you keep it that way, then it has an ombre effect. So it starts off light and then it ends sweeter. That's very nice. And that way, if you have somebody in your group that doesn't drink alcohol, they can still participate. So that's something, it's a good option to have in your back pocket. All right. I think I've got one more cocktail to show you guys. And this one is going to be using a mixing glass, so you can see how that works. So for this one, I'm going to make a Negroni. That's a kind of very hot cocktail. It's an old cocktail, but it's gotten a resurgence. So the Negroni is going to be gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari, which is a bitter liqueur. Very distinctive in terms of flavor. So I'm going to go ahead, and this one is super simple. So you can do it in a mixing glass, or you can do it straight in the glass, but I'm going to use the mixing glass so you guys can see how that works. So I'm going to fill this with ice. Okay. And this one is going to be 1 ounce gin, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, and 1 ounce of Campari. Very simple, 1-1-1. No citrus because, well, because I'm not using citrus. This is a cocktail that you would stir rather than shake. There's the Campari. And the Campari gives it a nice vibrant color. And so I'd use a mixing spoon. And when you're mixing in the glass like this, you generally want to do like about 20 stirs.
Can you use dry vermouth for this?
You can. It's traditional, or at least the recipes that I've seen typically call for sweet vermouth, but you can use dry vermouth.
I think if you use dry, it ends up pretty bitter. It's already bitter to begin with some of the other ingredients.
Yeah, it is pretty bitter to begin with. So anyway, now one of the benefits of, so shaking will create a colder cocktail, which is really nice for certain cocktails. You want it nice and cold, but it actually eliminates a little bit of the texture. When you do a stirred drink, it actually keeps more of the texture so that it feels a little bit more silky. Let me get my ice ready here. So this one I'm going to serve on a spherical ice. Normally you wouldn't leave it in this long, you would, because it's getting diluted as we speak, but I did all my shakes and stirs. And then the Hawthorne strainer, which I use in a cocktail shaker, perfectly sized for this too. Just pop it on there. And you pour that. And that Campari mixed with the sweet vermouth gives it this beautiful crimson color. And if anybody's had Campari, Campari has this very sort of distinctive smell and just the bitterness. Now for this one, oh, that's good. For a garnish, typically you could use, you can take a little bit of orange peel. And so what some people do is they actually try to express the orange oils. And there you go. And then that's a Negroni. Very popular drink right now. So I think those are all the cocktails that I wanted to prepare for you all today. So at this point, I think we could transition to questions while I clean up.
Yeah, this has been amazing. I really love this whole like format and layout. I want to thank the Plone Software Foundation for sponsoring you to be here with us today. So I want to make sure I slip that in there before folks have to head off to some meetings. I know some people got a 3 o'clock Eastern, but I'm here for at least the next half hour. If folks have questions, feel free to put them into the Slack channel. I've been asking many of them as we go along. So I'm sure there's lots of people, and actually people who are here on the Zoom, feel free to unmute and ask away.
So Tito, I don't have Campari. Is there anything else I can use that would be comparable?
If you don't have Campari, I don't think you would be making a Negroni. Negroni is pretty locked. Some cocktails are locked into a particular to a particular liquor, not all. An alternative to Campari is Aperol, but that's just another type of cocktail like this. If you don't have Campari, but you have
this guy.
bourbon, if you have bourbon and you have vermouth, then what you could do is an old fashioned. So
Okay.
an old fashioned would be, that's probably what you would want to do. So you would take, you'd use it in the mixing glass. You do bourbon and a little bit of sweet vermouth, and then a little simple syrup, and you stir that. And old fashioned is probably the drink you want to do. Negroni happens to be one that's kind of tied to Campari. So the other thing I wanted to mention is in the guide, I have some recommendations on some books for cocktails. So this is one that I recommend, Sasha Petrosky's Regarding Cocktails. It's a great book. If you're into tropical or tiki type of cocktails, this is one that I just picked up recently, which is excellent, Smuggler's Cove. And this one I really like. This one's called Spirited, Cocktails from Around the World. So it's regionally based. So you may find that there's certain regions that you like better than others in terms, I like tropical drinks myself. So I tend to look at those.
I'm sorry, Ben. You're just gonna have to go to the store and buy some Campari.
Yeah. 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 So
I'm on my old-fashioned trip now. I'll let you know how it goes.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think once you start learning these how to do bartending, then when you go to the liquor store, you'll appreciate it much more because you'll be always looking out for new ingredients. Yes, there was a question.
So Tito, let's say I learned the drinks you just showed me, right? And I can rewatch this and kind of go back through it. I love it. How do I kind of bring people to the right thing if they don't know, or what's some of your conversation as you are maybe working with someone new to you, or a guest, and trying to get them into the right thing?
You mean somebody that's maybe not had many cocktails before?
Well, if someone asks me for something and I can do it, then we're done, right? And if they can ask me for something that I don't know, how do I pivot that? Or maybe someone is new to cocktails, and and how do you kind of explore that? Or do you have a way to kind of open someone up a little bit?
Yeah, I do have advice on that. So, and it's what I did starting out, which is learn 3 cocktails. Ideally, one's using different liquors. So learn a rum cocktail, a gin cocktail, and a whiskey or bourbon cocktail, and perfect them. So get it to you're comfortable where you can always make them. And so when you have people over, and if they don't have strong opinions, you could say, do you like gin, rum, or bourbon? And people tend to fall into one of those. So people that tend to like vodka, like drinks that are sweeter and less strong in terms of alcohol flavor. People that like bourbon and whiskey tend to like drinks that are more spirit forward. So start small by learning a few cocktails, and then when you serve them to your guests, get feedback on them and see if they'll are willing to tell you whether they would like it more sweet or more sour, and then you can make adjustments from there. But I would start by learning a few basics, serving those to your guests. In my experience, 9 out of 10 people are not really big into cocktails. And so if you actually prepare something that's done according to a recipe that's kind of well established, they're going to be impressed. Where the differences come in is really based on the flavor profiles. And so some people like sweet, fruity drinks. Some people like drier, spirit-forward alcohol drinks. And so that's part of learning. That's part of hospitality, is kind of knowing what people like and giving them what they want.
Actually, I'll continue on Tim's line of questioning. Say you've got folks who are not familiar with cocktails, and you mentioned like making one really, really good one. but are there some typical questions you ask? Like, you like sweet, bitter? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's with a lot of things. People aren't always super descriptive about what they like. I like to throw out a few basic questions just to kind of zero people in on what they're into. So I typically will ask, do you have a preferred type of liquor that you enjoy? Do you like gin, rum, or vodka? Gin, rum, vodka, or whiskey. Those are the four basics. Tequila as well. Maybe that's a fifth. And some people have an opinion on it. And so that if I get that locked in, and then do you like your cocktail sweet? And someone say, no, not necessarily. I like it kind of like done properly, versus, yeah, I kind of like sweeter cocktails. And with those two pieces of information, you can then have what you need to be able to have that base. The other thing is, when I have a group of people that are coming over, I will have some kind of signature, one or two signature ingredients that I will use for a lot of the cocktails. So, and it might be seasonal. So like in the summer, I might be doing cocktails with peach. So I could do like the one I did today, where I had two variants of it. I could have a peach cocktail that is stronger and served in a coupe, and it's more of a sipping, and it's less sweet, and it's more of that alcohol flavor. But then with the same can of peach nectar, I could make one that's lighter and fizzier and sweeter, and that'll be for those that I know that like that kind of drink. So that's something that you can do, which is going into hosting a party. Being upfront, I'm making pineapple and peach cocktails tonight. But even with that constraint, you should be able to create variations on it that work for different people. Again, but that's something you just come to learn after having them over and having them give you feedback on it.
Yeah, I think I caught something very early in there, is that people are not very good at describing what they like. They're about as good at describing what they like as they are saying the site is slow. Like if they're talking about your product.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't know why it's slow, but but this is what I like.
Right. But when you serve them a drink, people will have opinions. Now, they may not tell you them, but they'll have opinions on, again, whether they prefer it sweeter or sour or something like that. Other thing I wanted to mention is I focused a lot on the basics of alcohol, sweeteners, and sour. But the world's your oyster in terms of flavors. So here's a mango nectar, for example. I like tropical drinks. I tend to put mango in things. This one, so this is a company that has, I think it's about 14 to 16 different non-alcoholic mixers. These are specifically designed for cocktails. That's called Library Company. So they're great. And this is enough to give you flavor profiles for a wide variety of cocktails. So I have, this one happens to be a blood orange non-alcoholic mixer, but you put this in alcohol. So this just gives the color, the natural color, and then the flavoring of blood orange to make a blood orange cocktail. But they have mixers for almond syrup, for passion fruit. You can imagine all the varieties. I think I have one which is fig. So I made a cocktail with bourbon and fig, which was very interesting. And again, somebody that likes light and fruity sweet cocktails aren't going to like that. But bourbon drinkers or whiskey drinkers, people that drink whiskey on the rocks, you put a little bit of fig or something unusual, and they'll say, "Oh wow, this is really good. It's different. I taste something different about it." And to me, that's what I like to do, is be able to make a cocktail that people will connect with, but there's something special about it, something different. And if they can't figure out the flavor, that's fine, as long as they enjoy it.
Yeah, I love the idea of fig and bourbon.
Yeah, fig and bourbon. It's you can create all kinds of combinations. Again, once you once you have established the basic recipe, and again, if you look at pattern match on cocktail recipes, you'll see the same pattern: 2 ounces of liquor, half to 1 ounce of sweetener, half to 1 ounce of citrus, and then some flavoring. That's it. Once you figure that out, you can make thousands of variants. And so I'm at the point of doing it where I know my friends and I know the kind of different flavors they like, and so I can say, "What are you in the mood for?" You know, and some of them now, that because I've made different drinks, they're comfortable giving me feedback, and they'll say, "Well, I'm kind of feeling something tropical. What can you do with tropical?" Okay, so I'm thinking passion fruit and pineapple with let's say rum and some simple syrup. Boom, ready to go. You can also, for cocktails, for people that don't like as strong an alcohol flavor or alcohol content on a cocktail, you can take most recipes, not like a egg, not with the egg white, but all these other ones, and not the Negroni, but all these other ones, you could lighten it by putting it on the rocks and then putting club soda. So just like an unflavored fizzy water, you put that in there, mix it up. It makes for a lighter drink, more refreshing, but still flavorful. And that's going to be more accessible for somebody that's maybe not that into drinking liquor. You know, they're more of a wine drinker or a beer drinker, and you're trying to ease them into that cocktail thing.
I know I'm taking over all the questions because I'm so interested in this. But what about beer cocktails? Have you done beer punches, beer cocktails?
I personally haven't, although they're becoming very popular now. So, you know, for that, I think, and especially with the amount of craft beers that are available now, because you have sours and you have IPAs, and there's so much flavor profile in beers that I think it's a great thing to explore. I've got it on my list of in the summer. I think I feel like it makes more sense in the summer, so I'll probably be doing that this summer. But yeah, it's another mixer, and it has lower alcohol content, so it's a way to add different flavors without necessarily adding as much alcohol. So you could take with a cocktail with beer, you'd put maybe half as much spirits in it, and then substitute with more of the beer, and it gives it a little bit of a different flavor. But I'm looking forward to the summer trying some cocktails with some fruit sours. I think that'll probably be pretty good.
I have a question. What if you had 5? Let's say if you had all the basic liquors, you had gin and rum and tequila, et cetera, et cetera. What are your 5 liqueurs or other things to get?
So are you saying what are the 5 base liquors that I would get, or what are the 5 flavored liqueurs that I would get to augment those?
The augmenting.
Maybe I'll answer both. So, so basically, for a home bar setup, you need vodka, you need gin. Nowadays, I think you need bourbon, and you need tequila. I got a lot of stuff here. Hold on. So this is going to be your base. So if you're starting out and you've got $100 to spend on getting a home bar set up, well, that's a good one. How about a silver rum? Yeah. So
I live in Alabama.
If you're just starting
that's a lot
out,
more than $100.
Well, this one, not this one. This one's too expensive. But but this, I mean, if you're getting a 750 milliliter and tequila, you can get something cheaper. But these are your basics. You know, Yeah, so if you're doing whiskey, you can get like Jack, small bottle. So you can make a good whiskey sour with this too. I just happen to use a fancier one. But this is your basics. So you got these 5. So vodka, gin, tequila, whiskey, and rum. That's a good starting point. And that with fresh ingredients and your own simple syrup, you're good to go. You've got a good home bar set up. Now, if you want to then take it to the next level, there are some flavored liqueurs that you can add to those cocktails to give it, again, take it to the next level, something that's more distinctive. So when I did the margarita cocktail, I used Cointreau, which is one of the 2 big orange liqueurs. This is what I use in my margaritas, Salerno, and this is a blood orange liqueur. So it tastes very similar to Cointreau. I like it a little better. It's like a nicer orange flavor. So this is, and generally the flavored liqueurs, you're using these as the base. So you would do like 1.5 ounces of these, and then you'd be doing 1/2 ounce of the flavored liqueur to add the little extra flavor to it. So this is one. So orange liqueur would be one of my 5. I'm going to answer his question. Another one that I like, this one, pomegranate, is pretty popular right now. So this is one that I'm using for some cocktail recipes. This is pomegranate liqueur. So that's one. This one's interesting, Midori. This is melon flavored. It's Japanese. And so this one, if you want a cocktail to be bright green, this is what you would use. So this with a clear spirit has a nice melon flavor, and it would be a beautiful green color. Peach schnapps, common. Can you give me Curacao? Peach schnapps is another one that, again, I use it in my cocktail recipe, but that would be a flavored liqueur. Blue Curacao. Your piece. Blue Curacao. So this one, it's hard to tell on the camera, but it's blue, bright blue. So this is really good for those cocktails, tropical cocktails that are really bright and showy. Use blue Curacao. And this is bitter orange flavored. But this makes for really pretty drinks. Another common liqueur that's used for flavor, amaretto. This happens to be one that's local to me in Raleigh. But amarettos, you can get, there are different makers for amarettos. This is almond flavored. So the liqueurs, generally, some people will drink a liqueur on the rocks, but most people use it as a mixer to add some flavor element to a cocktail. So those are some of the ones that I use most commonly. Let's see if I have any more. I have this one. This one's interesting. This is ginger. This is a ginger flavored liqueur. So if you like tropical exotic type of drinks, this is a neat one. This bottle is shaped like bamboo. It's a good one. Now, if you want to branch out into base liqueurs that are not the big 5 here, some ones that are becoming very popular, mezcal. So mezcal is a liquor that you could use to substitute tequila. The main difference is mezcal uses the same agave plant, but it's smoky. So people that like whiskeys or like a stronger type of drink, they may not like tequila, but they might like mezcal because it has that smokiness flavor to it. So this is one that I've been experimenting with more. And I know out there, there are some of you who are really big into bourbons and whiskeys. And so, thank you. Some of you may recognize this. So this is a peated whiskey. So this is, or an Islay whiskey. So this is the one which if you've had it, let's say on the rocks or neat, this is the one that tastes like an ashtray. Now it's peated. So it has a very strong flavor of peat. So this one, I actually like to use it as a floater on whiskey cocktails. So I'll mix a whiskey cocktail and then I put a little bit of this on top. And this just has a wonderful aroma because it's peaty. It's very peaty. All right, and then bourbons. So even in bourbons, you know, there's kind of traditional bourbon, and then there's rye. So a rye bourbon has a slightly different flavor profile from a regular bourbon. And so, again, this is not something that I didn't go to bartending school, and I didn't even have a mentor. But as I learned to make cocktails and I wanted to, you know, try something different, you'd go into the liquor store and say, oh, well, that's interesting. What is that about? And then you get a bottle, experiment with it. But also just going online and looking at cocktail recipes, sometimes they'll call for ingredients that you don't have. So again, you obviously have to manage your budget on that, but alcohol doesn't go bad. So, you know, you make an investment, but you could get a nice return on it over time.
I like what you're
rum.
saying there. I love the fact that it's an investment. I can use that as a selling point to make sure I grow the bar.
Yeah, it's an investment. Yeah. Rums come in dark or silver, and this is actually my favorite right now. So this is the brand is Plantation, and this is called Plantation Pineapple Rum. It's not pineapple flavored; it's actually made from pineapples. So it's a strong, rich caramel flavored rum. This mixed with a little bit of lemon juice in a cocktail is absolutely delicious. Really good stuff. And over time, as you try different alcohol, you get a sense of the flavor profiles that you like and the ones that you don't like as much. But this is really good stuff.